Hi everyone. So I want to do another 24-hour readathon. I want to film this using the timer method again. So I have my iPad here with like my very dirty screen. Oh my gosh, I really need to clean that. So I have my timer set for 24 hours. The premise of this is that every time you read, you let the timer go off and you see how much you can read within 24 hours. The thing is with this method is that this can go on for a couple of days. So I'm hoping it won't go on for too long. It's currently 11:30, but I've got a few things I need to do, so I probably won't be able to start this until the afternoon. But I have a very free day tomorrow, and I think I'm gonna go to coffee shops and stuff and read from there. So I think I'll actually will get a good chunk of the 24 hours done within today and tomorrow. So hopefully this won't go on forever. I did this before, like maybe 2 months ago, and that did go on forever. It went on way longer than I was expecting. I think because I had a trip home to see my family in the middle of it. Wasn't the best timing on my part, but it was still a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll try my best to get it done within a couple of days anyway. What I really want to do is really tackle my August TBR, because I'm really behind. It's September this week, I think, but it's fine. We read for fun anyway. It's not to get all these lists done. But I thought I would talk about the books I'm currently in the middle of and then my potential TBR for the 24-hour readathon. I'm currently in the middle of The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix, and this is a really beautiful fairy-lude book I got. I thought this was an adult book. It's actually a young adult book. It's a young adult fantasy. The main character is Ranka. She is this thing called a bloodwin. So in this world you have witches and humans. They used to live alongside each other. There was this event that kind of caused a big division, and there's a treaty now where the bloodwin, which happens to be Ranka, is a treaty bride to marry the prince in the royal family of the humans. But she's actually sent there to kill him because her coven want a war again, because they feel like the treaties isn't like being done correctly, so they want kind of an uprising, so they want Ranka to kill the prince. She gets to the kingdom and she's realizing the royal family are actually really nice. There's also a plague element to this, so there's this plague that's killing witches. She's kind of getting to the bottom of that. She also has a missing friend that she wants to find. But yeah, Ranka herself, the bloodwin, is nearly like what I could describe as like a werewolf type character, but it isn't. She kind of turns into this huntress. Power comes over her. She has to kill something in order for the power to kind of like cease and leave her. Her vision turns like grey. All she wants to do is hunt. So it's a very interesting plot. I think the writing style is not totally my favourite, but I think the plot is very strong, and I really do like the characters in it so far. I'm just about near the halfway point here. So I'm on page 150, and I think there's about 400-ish pages in this book. So I should get this done within this readathon, but I am finding I'm really enjoying picking this up every time I do go to pick it up. So that's what I'm in the middle of. The cover is here. So this is the dust jacket, so if you see it in a shop it's more like this. Fairly to always like change the covers a little bit, but that's what it looks like if you see it in a shop. It fell over, that's okay. The other book I'm in the middle of, which I'm listening to, is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is a chunky book. I think this is like nearly 900 pages. I think it's like 860 or something like that. I've hit page 360, so I tried to find the area where I am in the audiobook, and that's where I'm at. My goal isn't to finish this readathon. I think I'm just gonna, if I have kind of mundane tasks to do during the time, I'll listen to it. So instead of stopping the timer and doing a task, I'll actually just keep going and keep reading. You know, listening to audiobooks is reading. That's what I'll listen to, but I think I'll just like try to get through a little bit of it, and my goal isn't to finish it. So I'll talk about the books in my August TBR that I still haven't got to yet. So I'll link my video, I'll link it like here, and I go into a little bit more depth about what these books are about, but I'll like quickly go through them now. So the next book is A Court of Frost and Starlight. So this is by Sarah J Maas. This is like a little novel that connects the original ACOTAR trilogy to the next books. So I don't think you have to read this, but I think this is a nice little bridge between the original trilogy and A Court of Silver Flames, so I do want to get to this. The next book is The Infinity Courts, and this is by Akemi Dawn Bowman. This is a sci-fi young adult book, which I'm really excited to get to. In this world, I believe that AI is in the world, and AI has actually taken over the afterlife. So I think our main character dies at the very beginning of this book. It's on the blurb, so don't worry, that's not a spoiler. But I think her and the other people in the afterlife form this kind of uprising against the AI, which is sounds really intriguing, but I've heard really good things about this. I think there's 2 books out in this series and the 3rd one is about to come out. But yeah, sounds fun. And then the next one I have is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. So this is like a lit fic, kind of like historical fiction. I think this is about 2 sisters who are black but they're white passing. I think they both run away from home but they separate, and one lives as a white woman and one lives in a black community, and I think like it's years later their daughters meet. So it sounds very interesting. I'd say a good commentary on race. But yeah, these 3 books, so I picked they're all very different. I picked them out randomly. So for my TBRs I just like pick my physical TBR out of a bag and I pick like 4 random books. So yeah, I don't think I'll get to all of these during this readathon, but I think I would like to maybe mood read within these books. So I'll like pick the next one that I want to read out of this pile. They're all very different. Like this is fantasy romance, this is young adult sci-fi, and this is like historical fiction. But I like that there's a nice mix. I was thinking I'd really like to read a manga series in between these books. So I thought I would keep going with the Tokyo Ghoul series. I've read volume 1 like ages ago, but I never continued on, so I would love to maybe read a few of these. We'll see, maybe in between, maybe if I want like something different and just quickly go through a manga. I think this would be fun. So yeah, Tokyo Ghoul is about this teenage boy called Ken. He becomes the first ghoul human hybrid, and volume 1 shows you how that happens. Ghouls are kind of like, they're a little bit like zombies, a little bit like vampires, I suppose, because they can pass as human, but they actually eat humans. In this world, they're kind of living alongside each other. So in the first one, you're really learning about like ghoul territory. Ken's learning how to manage his appetite as well, because he is the first hybrid. But the first one was really good. It was really quite emotional as well. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like gory, but I can feel there's going to be a lot of heart behind it too. And I love like kind of darker animes and mangas, so I think I will enjoy this. But I'll see, I might get a few of these read. We shall see. I'm being very ambitious here, but this is like the books I will most likely like pick between. But I think my main goal at the start of this is to finish this book. Hi, so it's day 2. I'm on 21 hours, 3 minutes. So that means I read for about 3 hours yesterday. Not as much as I was hoping, but actually that's realistic as well, because yesterday was quite busy. So I'm glad I got 3 hours. I definitely listened to, I'd say, an hour and a half of this. I cleaned a bit of the house yesterday while I was listening to this. And oh my goodness, like I cleaned like a maniac, because this book just got so interesting. Like the plot just like ramped up as I knew it would. So I'm definitely just smack dab at the halfway mark now. I think I'm on page 405. This is an 800-page book, so I am roughly halfway. I think I'm just about to start part 3, but yeah, a lot is starting to happen for Theo. I was just mesmerized at this like section of the book, so just before part 3. I don't want to spoil anything, but it involves his family, it involves his friend Boris, his living situation, let's just say. But yeah, the plot just like really ramped up. It's very gut-wrenching, it's very emotional. I have to say, like, something about this book is very epic. This book is quite detailed. Theo at this stage is only just in adolescence. But yeah, I was hooked, absolutely hooked at the like hour and a half I listened to yesterday. This book kind of starts out quite fast, then it gets quite slow, then it's kind of like ramping up again plot-wise. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Poor Theo. It doesn't make you sad, but it does make you feel it is really gut-wrenching what happens to him. And I do think I'll listen to a bit more of this today, because I really want to deep clean the room I'm currently in, my bedroom. I will get more of this listened to. I said this at the start of the video, my goal for this readathon isn't to finish this book. This is just kind of like when I have things I need to do that are mundane, I'll listen to this. But yeah, I'm excited to get to more of it. So if you don't know about this book, the main character of this is Theo Decker. He's a small boy. His mum dies in this catastrophe. He survives her, and it's just kind of his life descending into being a criminal, and we're at his adolescence at the moment. But yeah, he's definitely a character. Even though he does a lot of wrong things and makes a lot of bad choices, you're still kind of rooting for him. You definitely do care about him. So yeah, I have to say the middle of this book was just gripping. Actually, similarly with this book, I think last night I got up to part 3. So yeah, I probably read this for about an hour as well, hour and a half maybe. I still have the same feelings. Like, I think the plot is really interesting. I'm not crazy about the writing style. There's a few instances in this book where I'm like, is that a plot hole? I have no idea. Like the plague itself that's in this book, I'm like, why is this not affecting Ranka at all? That could potentially be a plot hole, but then I remember it's not. But anyway, we'll see when I get to the end of the book. But yeah, I got up to page 197, and again, that's about the halfway point as well, because it's about a 400-page book, and I just passed part 3 last night. So yeah, I didn't read too much yesterday. The thing is, today though, is my day off work. I have the whole day more or less kind of free. I have one appointment. There's a few little bits I want to do as well, but I think I'll be able to listen to the Goldfinch and let the timer go off while I do them. But apart from that, I should be able to read for a good chunk of today. So I do want to get the hours down as much as possible today. I don't really have a particular goal, but I think I would really like to finish this today, if at all possible. And I think it's doable. A fairly big font book, so I feel like it shouldn't be too bad. So yeah, hopefully I'll get lots of reading done today. Hey everyone, so it's day 3 of the readathon. I can't for the life of me tell you what happened the last 2 days. So actually Sunday, Monday is my weekend, and I was like, I'm going to do this readathon. I've got lots of free time. I don't have much on. I got a lot read, don't get me wrong. Definitely not as much as I was thinking. I think just my little to-do list for the day just grew and grew, and then my evening was kind of taken up yesterday unexpectedly. But I still got a lot of reading done, but I'm just like kind of shocked at how quickly my weekend just like disappeared. I did read for 5 hours yesterday, so I'm on 16 hours to go. I think this readathon's going to go on for a couple of days, but hopefully not too much. So that's still not too bad. I read 5 hours. I kind of thought I would have nothing to do yesterday, but just like things kept cropping up. But anyway, I may get more done this week after work, more than I realise. I do work full time, so I can only really read the evenings now, but it's fine. I actually, in both books, so both in the Goldfinch and the ones we burn, I reached actually very like specific parts of both books. So for the Goldfinch, I got to page 459, and that's the very start of chapter 8. The chapters are very long in the Goldfinch. I actually finished cleaning. I was doing a lot of cleaning yesterday. I just seen that I had like a page or 2 left to reach chapter 8. So I kind of sat and physically read it then. So yeah, that's interesting. I probably won't pick this up again for another while, but I'm happy I got to like that point. I'm just like past the halfway point now for a very long book. So this isn't a spoiler, but like part of this book is about art theft. So the Goldfinch itself, you can see Theo has it wrapped up. It's getting to the point in the book now that it's really addressing that point. Theo's kind of like in a more stable point in his life now, but the art theft is kind of like making a bigger turn in the plot at the moment, so that's quite exciting. He's the most accidental criminal in the whole world, but it's very interesting. I'm really loving where the Goldfinch is going, and I really enjoyed the middle of this book so much, so I am excited to keep going with it. But for this readathon, I'm probably going to leave it for now. The rest of the 16 hours I probably will physically read, but it really depends. Unless something crops up and I just want to listen to a book, I'll pick this up again. But I think probably for the rest of the readathon, I'll probably put it away. So very similarly with the ones we burn, I got to a really dramatic part as well. I just reached part 4. I think I got a clip of it as well. I put the book down. I was like, okay, it's part 4. I'm going to have my dinner now. And then just like my life just turned into chaos for the whole evening. So I didn't get to sit down and read it. I actually really wanted to finish this yesterday, but I didn't get to. But I have about 130 pages left, I think. I'm on page 323 and I think there's like 460 pages in this book. It's a very quick book to get through though, the font's very big. You kind of flip the pages pretty quickly. But similarly, we're at the climax of the story here. This section of the story is very, very, very action-packed. Ranka really has, I think, is really being pulled in two different directions in a major way between the Coven and the royal family. I had a really long time just sitting down reading this, and I did actually quite enjoy the section that I read, most of part 3 I suppose. There was parts of this that, like, some of the writing style I just didn't like at all and I was rolling my eyes, and then there was some parts of this that like made me laugh, like especially Percy. He makes me laugh a lot. I think with this book, I think I'm finding it, as I said before, the writing style is just not for me, is really not for me. Even though the plot is really strong, I really like the plot, I'm finding the narration of the book, I think Ranka as a narrator, there seems to be a lot of telling rather than showing. So like a character could say a sentence, for example, and Ranka will glean like 2 paragraphs worth of meaning from it. A bit melodramatic, but I prefer to be shown that a character is kind rather than being told all the time. Like with Ranka herself, you can tell that she's just wanting to be loved, really, and that's shown in the book and it's done really, really well. Where there's certain sections of this book where it's a little bit weaker in that sense because you're just being told that this person is like this, or rather than shown. So I think that's what's bugging me about this book mostly, but at the same time I'm really enjoying this. It's like kind of an enjoyable reading experience, fun escapism, it's easy to read, the plot is very strong. I think Ranka's a very strong main character, she's pretty dimensional, the side characters are pretty good as well. It is exciting, the plot isn't too obvious either. There's a few things I guessed, but yeah, some things are taking me by surprise as well. So the plot of this book is definitely the major selling point of it. But yeah, so hopefully I might finish this tonight. We shall see. It really just depends on how my evening goes. I think I really will move on to manga next, maybe some smaller, shorter books. So yeah, I might do Tokyo Ghoul, might move on to A Court of Frost and Starlight, but we'll see. Maybe won't jump the gun. I'll just see if I can get this done this evening or read most of it. You never know. Hi, it's day 4, I think. The timer, I think I got like little clips of this yesterday, but I think we're up to like 12 hours. 12 hours 38. I think I started 16 hours, so that's roughly 3.5 hours I read for, which is not bad for a work day. I'm surprised I read that much, so I'm happy with that. But that's not going to happen this evening because I'm going out for dinner. Hopefully I'll get an hour or 2 in maybe. So I picked this up, basically just read part 4. So that's like the last 150 pages-ish. So I read all of that. I think I started after 6 and I finished around like 9:30 or so. So yeah, first book finished of the readathon and we're about nearly halfway. Well, this was a big fantasy, so I'm happy, but I know I didn't start it from the start, but still, I'm happy I finished it. You would have seen, I think I got some clips of me reacting to like the end of this. There's a particular chapter, I think it's chapter 72, that broke my heart and it was like really shocking. I just wanted to like give Ranka a hug and tell her everything's okay. Oh, it's so, yeah, it's very tender, it's very emotional. I think Ranka's story was very well developed. Also, note about this book, it's a standalone fantasy, so if you wanted to read a fantasy book that wasn't, you know, starting a whole big series, I would probably recommend to pick this up. I was debating what to rate this. I don't think it hit the 4-star for me, but I'm going to go for a 3.5, 3.75 out of 5. I'm fully confident though that someone else reading this would give it 4 or 5 stars. I just think the writing style in this book, as I've mentioned, isn't for me. I found it very juvenile in places. It is YA and I am full-grown adult, so maybe I'm just not the target audience here. I feel like there was a lot of like, you're being told a lot in this book without being shown. if that makes sense. Like you're told what a sentence means. As I mentioned before, a character could say something and then Ranka would glean like maybe 2 paragraphs worth of meaning from it. And sometimes I like to figure that out for myself. So just the writing style wasn't quite for me, but I'm fully confident someone else would rank this higher. This is a queer romance as well. It's a female romance actually, and it is YA, so it is all fairly innocent as well. So if you were wondering. That being said, I didn't quite believe the chemistry in the romance. The romance didn't do much for me, I have to say, in this book. I was far more interested in the main kind of overarching plot and Ranka herself and her own story, like her backstory. I think I was just like dying to know about her backstory the whole book, and of course that's kind of like the climax of the book and why I had the reaction I did. Probably the most interesting part of this book for me, and it was heartbreaking. There's definitely a lot of emotional manipulation in this book, so just bear that in mind if that's not something you want to read about. Another slight complaint I have, and I've mentioned this before, is like maybe modern ideals, modern dialogue, modern kind of maybe terms and stuff are used in this world, and it just didn't quite fit. I found that like slightly jarring. It kind of took me away out of the fantasy world that it is, slightly. But yeah, I thought this book was very exciting. I thought the pacing was really good. I love Percy. He was my favourite. The dialogue for him was excellent. It was really funny. Like I laughed out loud multiple times in this book because of him. So yeah, this is a very strong, good standalone YA fantasy book. Yeah, glad I read it. It's funny when you can admire something that you know isn't for you. So I don't think I'd personally ever reread this or anything like that, but it was like a good, enjoyable book. I didn't read anything else. Once I finished that, I kind of like wanted to go to bed, but I am going to pick up some shorter books. I mentioned this yesterday as well, but I think I want to continue on with some Tokyo Ghoul. I have read volume 1 ages ago, but I never continued on, so I want to continue on with this if I can. And then the next book I want to pick up is A Court of Frost and Starlight. It's a little novel after the trilogy, so you've had A Court of Wings and Ruin. Maybe I can't really go into too much detail because spoilers, this happens after a trilogy. So I just read A Court of Rings and Ruin this summer and I loved it. Like I think it was definitely my favourite ACOTAR book. Maybe this isn't a huge spoiler, but like there is a big war. I'm assuming this is kind of like maybe a few months later the characters are kind of gathering themselves back up again. And I heard that this is a good bridge between the original trilogy and A Court of Silver Flames. I know people have mixed feelings, but I actually really liked Nesta's character. I know people have like mixed feelings about her because she has very glaring flaws and she doesn't treat our main character very well. But I actually found her story really interesting. I usually like unlikable characters, and I know A Court of Silver Flames is about Nesta, so I'm actually excited to get to that. And I heard that this is like a good, good segue into that book. So I think I'm excited to get into this. So hopefully today I'm going out for dinner, so I'm probably not going to get a lot done today, but maybe an hour or two. We shall see. But these will be my next reads anyway. so I haven't done an update in a little while. I just haven't had the opportunity to just kind of like stand and talk. So I've had a few days of not reading a lot, like kind of a few days of just getting an hour or two in, but then some evenings with a good chunk of time. So I've actually gotten through these three. I've read Tokyo Ghoul 2 and 3, and then I've read all of A Court in Frost and Starlight. So I read this in about 2 sittings, and these obviously they're manga, so I got them done in 1 sitting. So yeah, I've been a bit like pleasantly surprised by Tokyo Ghoul. The first one was really good, but it is kind of just like setting up for the story, where 2 and 3 have been a little bit more feeling in it, if that makes sense. So you've got Ken, he's the first kind of ghoul human hybrid. Volume 1 kind of explains how that happens, but volume 2, Ken has kind of fallen into this ghoul group and they're kind of teaching him how to live as a ghoul. They all work in this cafe, so he's spending a lot of time with these other ghouls and they're kind of teaching him. One of the plot points in volume 2 was kind of explaining how they eat humans ethically. In this world you have ghouls and humans. Ghouls kind of look like humans, however they eat people. It reminded me of Twilight a little bit, like how they drink animals' blood instead of killing people. Ken is really grappling with not wanting to be a murderer, however still needing to eat. But yeah, I love volume 2. It was just kind of him learning a little bit more. He gets his mask, so when they do actually have to go and fight, they can hide their identities. Like, this is Ken. You know, he's a little shy, introvert guy, and then his mask is like this, like super creepy. And it is like a good contrast between his human side and his ghoul side. You're introduced to the policing system that is trying to like get rid of ghouls and just see them as like monsters. Especially in volume 3, you get more into the policing system. You get more introduced to one of the characters, and you have like Ken nearly agreeing with him that like there needs to be enforcement over ghouls. He's still grappling with how that can look. In volume 2 as well, you have this real like talk about what it means to be human, really, because you've got this like mother and daughter. They just want to live peacefully, but they're ghouls. So there's like conversations on, do ghouls actually have feelings? Should they be treated as humans? Should they be allowed to feed just as humans are? So this is deeper. Much deeper than I was expecting, and it's a lot more heartfelt and tender. Volume 3 was definitely more violent. I'd say it had more action, I would say, than volume 2. Volume 2 is a little bit more political, I would say. I'm pleasantly surprised by this series and I think I'm going to really like it. And then something very different. So I read A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, so this is like an extra novel after the final book in the trilogy. As I explained before, the last book has a big war. This is about maybe 6 months later. The characters are still kind of dealing with the aftermath of this, dealing with the trauma and everything from that. I actually really enjoyed this. I think my expectations were a little bit low because I've heard that people think this book doesn't need to exist. And I agree and I don't agree. I actually did really enjoy this. I do think in terms of like Feyre and her story, I don't want to spoil anything from if you haven't read the original trilogy. Feyre's story does get wrapped up in the final book, so I don't think you need much more from her, but you get a lot of Feyre in this one, which I don't think is needed. I think this is very much needed for Feyre's sisters and for Rice's brothers, so for Cassian and Azriel, and for Morgan. Definitely think for the side characters this book is needed, but for Feyre it's definitely not. So I do think there's too much Feyre in this. I wish there was a little bit more Cassian and Nesta, a little bit more of Elaine. So I do think the points about Feyre didn't really need to happen, I suppose, but the points for the other characters do need to happen in order for Silver Flames to happen. But I suppose you could argue that the story in this could still be in Silver Flames. I don't know. But I still enjoyed this. This is set over solstice, so it is our equivalent to Christmas, and I read this in September. So probably not the best time of year to read it, but I still really enjoyed it. It actually made me excited for Christmas because a lot of the characters are kind of like living, you know, kind of slowly now. They're having a break. They're just buying presents for each other. They're trying to just heal and plan their lives now. So I was like, ooh, what will I get my family for Christmas? I started thinking of Christmas presents early. So I liked this. I think I liked it more than I thought I would. The weak points of ACOTAR are still prevalent in this. Like, I think a lot of things that Maas would put in would be very repetitive in terms of like what characters would do when they're exasperated, or there's times maybe when it's supposed to be funny but I don't find it super funny. Things like that. I think it's not like the strongest book series I've ever read in my whole life, but I have like thoroughly enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars. In terms of the timer, I only have 2 more hours to go. So really in theory I should get it done this evening. It's the following week, by the way, since I started. I kind of put my August TBR to the side. I actually, when I finished these, I actually really wanted to start Conjuring of Light. And I left it downstairs, I don't have it. I'm about 150 pages in. These books, even though that's a big chunky book, I think it's over 600 pages, it reads super quickly. Like, the chapters are very short and snappy. So far it's fantastic, so I can't really say what happens because major spoilers, but the end of the second book is definitely just very exciting, and that excitement kind of carries over to the start of this book. So the pacing so far has just been like on top gear, and it's been amazing. You've got Kel and Lila like dealing with another threat. You have this, again, I'm trying to say this without spoilers, you have this, let's say, other magician who was introduced in the first book, who has this kind of interwoven story with all 3 books, and that character is becoming more prevalent in this book, I can tell, and I'm very excited. So yeah, really looking forward to getting through that. I obviously won't finish it in this readathon. I only have 2 hours left and I'm not going to read it in 2 hours, but hopefully I get a good chunk of it read. But yeah, once I finish the 2 hours I'll do another wrap up. So I wanted to just wrap this up. It has been over a week. I definitely had one of those weeks where I thought I was really free, but I ended up not being very free. Did not think it would take me this long. So if I do this again, I really need to carve time out to make sure I can just read. But anyway, it was fun. And it is interesting to see how much you can read in 24 hours. So I thought I would go through quickly what I read. So I did listen to, obviously I didn't start and finish this, but I did listen to a good chunk of The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. We're definitely getting to the kind of Theo becoming a criminal now, which is really entertaining. So I'm hoping, I think I just passed the halfway point. I'm kind of hoping the next half is very exciting. But yeah, really enjoying this so far. It's definitely giving me about 4-star read feel so far, but I shall see how the other half goes. Then I had The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix. Again, I had this kind of like a little bit started, but I read the majority of this in this readathon. I did get a clip of chapter 72 like destroying me. So this is very heartfelt YA fantasy. I definitely would recommend this. Definitely a high 3-star for me, but as I said before, I think this would be a 4 or 5-star for someone else. It definitely has some deep topics on manipulation, so just bear that in mind before you go into it. Wasn't my total favorite writing style, but again, I really do think someone else would really enjoy this. I think I read 2 and 3 of Tokyo Ghoul. Yeah, and kind of as I said in my previous clip, this is a lot more, there's more to it than I thought it would be. I thought it would kind of be like kind of this dark action kind of manga, but it actually has a lot of, I feel like, deeper topics, like what it means to be human. Do ghouls deserve to live just as humans do? How they live and protect themselves, how they feed, like the policing system. It's getting very interesting, so I'm very excited to continue on. I've only scratched the surface. I think there's 14 volumes. I've only scratched the surface, so I'm excited to get to the rest of them. Then I read the entirety of A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. Did this need to happen? I don't know. I'm going to read Silver Flames. I did order that. It hasn't arrived yet, so I will dive into that very soon. I'm going to see if this book was needed or not, because I did feel, as I mentioned before, I don't think Fira's viewpoint needed to be explored so much in this, where I do think the other characters do, because this is a setup and a bridge from the original trilogy to Silver Flames and the next book that's going to come out. So I wish it delved into the other characters more. I think that's what I wanted from this book. But it was really cozy. It was really, again, very tender. The characters are recovering from the war and trying to process it. They're trying to enjoy life again. Different characters are reacting differently, but definitely has a lot of love and found family and kind of really nice topics like that. So I am excited to move on to Silver Flames. Did this need to happen? I don't know. I need to read Silver Flames to see. And then, obviously I didn't finish it, but I did get through a good chunk of A Conjuring of Light. This is a very quick read, I have to say. I kind of fly through these books. This is the third one. The tension in this, the plot is just so high. I'm scared about what's going to happen because I think I'm going to get really upset. I just know something heartbreaking is going to happen. This is excellent so far. It's a pity I didn't finish it in this vlog, but I will mention it in another reading vlog or a wrap up and share my final thoughts. But so far this is definitely on its way to being a 5-star read. As I mentioned before, there is this new threat that Kel and Lila have to deal with, and all of Red London basically. What I love about this book, which is very different from the first two, is that it has a lot more points of view. All the books have different points of view, but this has so much more. So I'm really enjoying that, and I think the pacing and the storytelling is really well done and well rounded because of it. Usually when there's loads of points of view, it can be disjointing, but it's actually done very well. I think Schwab did a very good job. But yeah, I'm not done this. I'm excited to finish it though, but I'm also scared. But yeah, I will mention my final thoughts in another video. Yeah, I am happy. I'm happy with that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to subscribe, I do anything book related on this channel. Readathons like this one, weekly reading vlogs, wrap-ups, TBRs, all that sort of stuff. I'll leave all my links in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.